So there's been a lot of talk and debate online recently around whether or not we would see any kind of games update in the month of December for Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, with the likely culprit potentially being the long-awaited GoldenEye. And while we cannot celebrate that announcement yet today, we do have a round of brand new Sega Genesis games that are actually, for the most part, all very strong additions to this service. And we have to break down what those games are and dive into the broader conversation of what this really just proved when it comes to new game updates for the rest of 2022 and 2023 going forward. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today we are discussing the brand new Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack update, as there was a lot of talk and debate back and forth on whether or not we would get anything this month at all. We still do not know as far as the N64 game, and you may remember in previous videos I've discussed that we are really in a new, more unpredictable update scenario from Nintendo around this service now, because we've seen them skip the month of September already and then do the very unexpected announce 2 games in the month of November with Mario Party 1 and 2. And you can say that if they release GoldenEye this year, that they are still on that 1 per month roadmap update schedule, other than the fact that they gave us 2 in 1 month, kind of making up for that September missed month. But it is also entirely possible that we now don't get GoldenEye, especially in light of these newest round of Sega Genesis updates, which it had been quite a few months, I believe since September, since we saw the last round of additional Genesis titles added in. But fortunately, that wait is now over, as you can see the following post from Nintendo of America, where it says 4 Sega Genesis games have been made available for Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack members. Golden Axe 2, that's the big one for me, Alien Storm, Columns, and Virtua Fighter 2. Now, first up on their trailer, they highlight Alien Storm, which this actually looks like a pretty solid game. Definitely 2D elements, and then also some first-person perspective shooting going on towards the end of the trailer. I never played this one, so I will definitely be checking it out. I owned an SNES as a kid and had friends that had the Genesis, so I got to play a lot of games on the Genesis, but not all of them. And I'm sure there are some hidden gems that will be added into the service that I'll be able to discover for the first time and enjoy. Speaking of gems, the next game on the list was Columns in the trailer, which it just looks like a classical Bejeweled gem style puzzle game where, you know, it's pretty straightforward. You're lining up the colors, whether they be in horizontal or vertical or even diagonal, and there's nothing really else to say about this game. Golden Axe 2, this is a big one, and I think definitely a strong point of the service. The combat in Golden Axe 2 and the type of enemies you fight and all of the different over-the-top attacks and beasts that show up on screen, like, this is a ton of fun. A bunch of nostalgia comes back, flooding back seeing this game again. I have not played it in years and years, and I will definitely be playing through this one on the service as soon as I can make time for it. And then lastly, Virtua Fighter 2 is a popular fighting game, and this is the 2D iteration on the Genesis, and it looks like it's a ton of fun. I have not been the biggest on one-on-one fighting style games over the years, but it does at least seem to be, again, a nice addition and something that is very welcome at the expansion pack at this point in time, because the one complaint, even though this is obviously a good news update and we're getting new games on the Sega Genesis, it is just truly random on when we can expect any of these games to drop and be announced. And one thing to point out also is Nintendo's definitely figured out, you guys may remember at one point in time, we used to get a little heads up when it comes to new game additions on Nintendo Switch Online, because there was a Nintendo status bot that could watch for maintenance to be scheduled, and people would talk about it saying that, hey, the Sega Genesis app is undergoing maintenance, that means we're about to get new games. That stuff's not spotted anymore, so they've definitely gone out of their way to actually make sure that we're not aware of when these games drop. And in the case of the Genesis, it is just that, a shadow drop. It literally went live when their tweet went out, and there's an update available, and you can play these games all immediately. So Nintendo definitely figured out how to hide their maintenance that goes live to the apps, and then when they make the announcement, it's just up to you to go in and hop in and start playing the games. However, one thing we do normally see them give us a heads up on is N64 games, and that is where I want to pivot the conversation and really talk about what I believe this proved for the rest of December, because you can never say anything for sure with Nintendo, but I do personally believe that the fact that we got a December games update for Sega Genesis, and we are now at the 16th of the month, over the halfway point. Granted, we have 31 days in December. I definitely think that we are not getting GoldenEye this month. We had discussed previously on the channel multiple times that the Japanese Nintendo Direct trailer did show 2023 for that game's release date, and it just said coming soon in the other regions of the world that had the Nintendo Direct Air, and that was very puzzling to me. Why would you actually announce it in 2023 for Japan and then have it release everywhere else around the world at a different timeline? It didn't make a lot of sense, but December was the 1 month around Christmas time that maybe Nintendo would just decide to surprise announce and reveal that game, but I don't necessarily think that they do just a shadow drop for it. I do think that they give us a 1 week or even 2 weeks heads up that this is the date that GoldenEye will go live. Mark it on your calendars, and they will promote it a little bit, I personally think. And since we are so far into the month now and we just got this batch of new Sega Genesis games, I definitely think it is a less likely scenario that we get GoldenEye. Is there that one-off chance that maybe it's like the New Year's Eve game and it actually drops into the service late at night on December 31st, and then in turn that means it is also 2023 in Japan? That's like a very long shot idea, but it is possible and could maybe explain why it would launch there in a different year than it would here. But unfortunately, I think we are going to be in a wait and see scenario with this game, and coming soon just means soon in the foreseeable future in terms of Nintendo's terminology and how they view that, because we could be talking at this point January, February, or even March, and we may or may not get back on a regular schedule with the new N64 games that are added in, because one word that stuck out to me at the September Nintendo Direct when they updated the game's roadmap schedule was the word gradually. Now, that doesn't mean that Nintendo goes too far off the 1 per month update roadmap schedule, but I do think that if you look at history and you see how they used to update NES and SNES games when those were the new hot console item, it was a once per month update, then it went to once per quarter, and now it's just anybody's guess on when we'll get new games added into those services as they've built out the mass majority of the titles that they wanted to add into the service. I think you can argue there's still plenty of missing ones, but we don't see the kind of ongoing support once the console hits a certain point of maturity on NSO, and we could be at that point with the N64 library where this updated roadmap schedule of 6 games or whatever it is that we don't have added in yet might not be added in that traditional 1 per month, and we may go 2 months without a new edition, and then they may surprise us and do like a dual release again every now and then when it's like Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. Maybe they both hit on the same date in the service. I think we are now at this point with NSO that we will shift to the even more, if you can imagine it, unpredictable new game update scenario. And that's unfortunate for me, because the one thing as a paying subscriber of the service and somebody who had to purchase it annually, as everybody does with the expansion pack, we are giving Nintendo our money for 12 months, and we just trust that they are going to add in enough value for that, and there is zero commitment on their end to actually stick to any kind of reasonable schedule. And if they entirely skip a month here or there, there's no accountability for them, because clearly they've never said that they are sticking to any kind of formula. We just try to find the pattern, and 1 per month for N64 games seemed to be the thing before, but that is now changing. And while this new Sega Genesis batch of updates is definitely a good news story, it also reminds me that we are in total uncharted territory when it comes to new N64 game updates, and I will definitely have my eyes and ears open for any surprise announcements for the hope of GoldenEye happening this year, but I definitely feel like it is now less likely with this brand new Sega Genesis edition. But I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, all your personal thoughts and opinions around this matter. Are you pumped for some of the Sega Genesis games that were added in? I know I am for Golden Axe 2. Are you like me and you now think that this is likely an indication that GoldenEye is less likely this month? Or do you think that Nintendo around Christmas time or New Year's decides to just shadow drop the game into the service? And whether you're subscribed to the expansion pack or not, how do you personally feel like Nintendo is doing now that the N64 library is maturing more with delivering new game updates? And are you a fan of the upcoming games that we know to expect in 2023? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.